talk about fears. Let's talk about love. Yeah, I got fears, but I ain't got no love. Yes, I got fears. Fear of plane crash. Fear of car crash. Oh, fear of sex. Fear of alcohol.
So today I'm doing another Elite Members request. This is the case of Maura Murray. I'm vaguely familiar with the case, and by vaguely I mean I've heard about it in passing. Again, I tell people I'm not into true crime like I was probably in my early 20s and as a teenager in that era. And I still am interested in it, but I just don't follow it. And I don't search for it as much as I used to. But I think that gives me an advantage sometimes because I don't go down the rabbit holes. Like when I used to look at true crime, like Charles Manson, Jeffrey McDonald, I'd have to go to the library and search in their little index cards. I forget what they were called, Dewey Decimal System. And then I would read about it. Check out a magazine and read about it. Not a lot of rabbit holes to go down when you do that. Nowadays, man, when I start to research something, there's just so many inaccurate things that it's incredible. And you just have to allow yourself not to go down that hole. So I think for me, not being into it as much allows me to look at it with a fresh set of eyes, not go down the rabbit holes, and concentrate on the facts. A lot of these cases, including this one with Maura Murray, there's documents out there. I read the police report of the crash site, some very other interesting facts that will go into victimology. And I stayed away from, as I always do, right? Just stay away from web boards or just those type of things. I don't look at them. I don't put them into my consideration when I do an assessment or I look at a case. I just look at the facts, what's there, and I try not to deviate from that too much. So this case, there was a disappeared episode on this, and I did watch that. Again, to me, it's almost, I don't know. Like I've always say on documentaries, it has a narrative of its own. It's not always straight facts or shows you everything or shows you only what they want you to see. So this case, I hate rehashing cases, but there are some people that are watching this and probably don't know who that Maura Murray is or what the case is. So I try to tell a story, and I don't think I'm that good of a storyteller, but I lay out the facts, and sometimes it might be jumping all over the place, but that's my style, and that's how I do it, and if you don't like it, you can stop the video right now and go somewhere else. But for you that are still watching, Maura Murray was a college student, okay? I think in order to assess this case properly, victimology is going to be of paramount importance. Sometimes victimology, I say it's good in every case. Sometimes it's not needed. It's not really used too much, although I think in most cases it is. In this case, I think you can learn a lot from it. So, I always say in missing person cases, I like to concentrate on the last 24. I'll go back 48 hours, sure. You can go back further than that, but you kind of concentrate on that. So what happened in this young girl's life within the last 48 hours of her disappearance? Well, this is what happens. This is the story. She's at University of Massachusetts, I believe Amherst. I'm somewhat familiar with that because when I took my master's degrees studies, it was at Massachusetts Lowell. Now, while there, this would have been, I believe, on February. See, now, people will want to say, well, you don't know the timeline or this and that way it shows you that you don't know what you're talking about the case. Timelines are not important in assessing a case. If you're off by a day or two, it doesn't really matter. It's the facts of the case. But for the purpose of having a timeline, let me try to get, I want to say it was February 8th, but I want to say that I'm sure of when this happened. So, I believe, yes, it was February 8th. February 9th is when she went missing, but February 8th is when things started going out of whack for Miss Murray, I believe. On February 7th, her dad had come up to meet her at the university. Her car was not running well. It was not good, and they were going to look for a new car. He withdrew $4,000, if my memory serves me right, and they went up and looked for a new car. They didn't get a new car. Around 9 o'clock that night, or something to that effect, she asked if she could borrow her dad's car to go to a party. She goes to a party with a friend, and on her way back, she was in an accident. Now, according to my notes, this happened at 03:33. So, at 3:33 a.m. on the 8th, she was in an accident in her dad's car. The car is towed. She is taken by the police officer to the hotel room where her dad is staying. Apparently, from his statement that I read, his written statement that he gave to the police, she didn't wake him up. She went to bed. When she woke up at 10:30 in the morning, he woke up around 10. She told him, hey, I had an accident with your car. It's towed. She was depressed about it. According to the father, Fred, he said it felt like she let me down. That meaning she felt that way. He did not. He tells her, hey, don't worry about it. Did you get a ticket? And she says no. She had drank that night, and that bothers me. Well, it doesn't bother me, but it stands out to me that she was at a party that night. She had quit drinking earlier. So they didn't give her a breathalyzer. But I am betting through victimology, from everything that I've researched, that she was intoxicated there. That's going to be important. Okay? She didn't get a ticket. They didn't give her a breathalyzer, and actually they took her home. He eventually goes home. She goes, back to her dorm. And now it is February 9th. And let me go right to the page here so I don't mess anything up. There was going to be a snowstorm. Classes were going to be more than likely canceled. However, she started doing some research on places to rent in Vermont. Condos, stuff like that. She printed out a MapQuest, if you remember those, for directions to a condo. Her telephone log indicated that she made calls up there to rent condo. She didn't tell anybody about this. At some point in the day, she packed up her car, not with everything, belongings. She had her studies with her, meaning her syllabus, her books. She also had her running gear with her. She was a cross country and track athlete at college. So she leaves the dorms. Before leaving the dorm, she sends an email to her professor of some sort and says, there was a death in my family. I won't be able to be in class all next week. Or this week. I'm not sure if it was the previous week. Regardless, she lied. I was just thinking back, they had interviewed her boyfriend's mom on this disappeared episode, and she said, yes, Maura lied about that, but she wasn't a liar. And I kind of chuckled because I was like, well, wait a second. Yes, she is. She just lied. But I know what she meant, okay? It wasn't normal for her to lie. I will challenge that later on in this assessment. But she leaves the dorms. She's got her map quest to Vermont, Burlington. No idea where she's going. Nobody knows anything other than she's leaving. So on her trip, before she starts on it, she stops at an ATM machine. She withdraws $280. Now, I hear that was basically all that she had available to her, but I don't know that. That would be significant to know how much she left in her bank account, but I don't know that. But she withdrew a lot. Then she went to the liquor store and she spent money on Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of red wine. Well, I know that the Kahlua and the Bailey's and the vodka, that's for White Russians. And from reading a report that I believe the dad had given, she had drinking Black Russians while he was there. So I know that more than likely that was for her. Victimology would tell you that as well. You talk to her friends and family, find out what she would drink. It's a lot of alcohol to take with you if you were just leaving to go somewhere and come back, right? So we can assume, based off of the map quest, the phone calls that she made up there looking for a condo, and that liquor, that she was planning on getting away. Now, her state of mind is very important here because she is somewhat depressed. Her father described her as whimpering at one point in time while he was driving her after this accident and him telling her it'd be okay. $280 and a car full of booze. And you're heading out. Now, there had been a couple phone calls en route, I think, either to or from a boyfriend, what might have been one. This boyfriend she had met when she was at West Point Academy. And we'll get into more about that later. But according to the disappeared episode, she had left West Point and transferred to UMass. There's more to that, which is important. So basically, let's get to 7:27 that night. She's been driving now for 3 hours, something to that extent. By all intent and purposes, the route that MapQuest has taken her to get to Burlington, Vermont. She wrecks her car. Kind of a hairpin turn. Roads are bad. She wrecks. The car hits a snowbank, hits a tree, spins around. Witness called police. Another witness actually was on the scene. He was a bus driver. He pulled up. He sees her, asks if she's okay. He says she was okay. She had no visible injuries, although she was cold and shaken up. He said he was going to call police, and she told him not to. And in one report I read said she pleaded. And then she said, I already called AAA. Well, he had known that there was no cell service there, so she probably didn't, but, whatever. He goes home. He calls the police, reports it. Police show up about 10 minutes later, and she's gone. Never been seen again. So what can we start deducing from eyewitness reports at the scene? One thing is that the police officer noticed red stains on the ceiling of the vehicle and on the driver's side door. He also noticed a soda bottle of some sort that had remnants of red in it. And on the driver's side door, a stain in the snow that was red. Okay, what does that tell me? That tells me she was drinking alcohol, more than likely the red wine. She was disguising that in a soda bottle so as to not be suspicious of driving while drinking. I'm not going to say driving while intoxicated, because you don't know if she was intoxicated, right? But you know she was drinking. She was either drinking that at the time of the impact and it went everywhere, or if the impact was significant enough, if it was in a cup holder, I guess it could have sprayed everywhere. But my thinking is she was actually taking a drink of it at the time the accident occurred, and it went where it did. After she regained her little composure there for a minute, after realizing what happened, first thing she does is dump that bottle out the driver's side door because she doesn't want to be caught drinking and driving. Remember what I said about the accident that she had with her dad's car previous. So within 2 days, she has 2 accidents, both, in my opinion, involving alcohol. Now, the first one has no indication of that, but she's at a party. I see nowhere that she was a DD. She had been drinking earlier that night with her father. And the accident happens at 3:33 in the morning. To me, there was alcohol involved. Whether she was drunk, whether the cop didn't give her a breathalyzer test, whatever it was, I guarantee if he would have, there would have been some alcohol in her system. It might have not have been over the legal limit, but it involved alcohol. The car is locked. That's also a very significant indicator to me that she was, I won't say, there was stuff in that car that she did not want taken because she locked the car, right? But what's missing from the car? Her cell phone, her credit cards, and in some accounts, the liquor. Now, what I did not read is whether she used a purse, because I have a hard time believing that she would just be carrying liquor down the street like that after an accident. That doesn't make sense, right? Because she had just dumped out alcohol. So I don't know if the reports about that liquor are true, but I could see maybe she would take them if she had a bag of some sort, a backpack that she took with her, or purse. Why does she leave the scene of that accident? It's obvious to me that she did not want to be dealt with by police because she was intoxicated. She wrecked the car and she was driving while impaired. Now let's jump back to Maura's victimology. She was at West Point, a place where you need good character. You know, I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I know the military lifestyle. Integrity should be always number one. I believe that in life, and I believe that certainly in the military and law enforcement. While at West Point, she meets her boyfriend, like I had stated. And the disappeared episode said that she transferred from West Point to UMass. But they gave no explanation on that. So I do some research and I find that she actually stole possibly some makeup from the commissary. So a commissary is just like a grocery store. It's like a Walmart, but it's on base. And she was confronted with this. She pled guilty to it. And she transferred. Now, whether it was she was forced out of West Point, or she voluntarily agreed to leave, I don't know. And would that make a difference in my thought process? I think it would. Because if she was not forced to leave, and she did it on her own accord because of this, it tells me that she runs away from her problems. Now, if she got booted out, okay, well, now it explains why she's at UMass. And now she's continuing this long-distance relationship with the boyfriend. So while at UMass, she is arrested for stealing somebody's credit card. She used the credit card numbers to make purchases for a couple of days at a couple of different restaurants for food. She would call in the order, give the credit card information, the delivery driver would bring it. This was reported to police on November 4th, 2003. Okay. Now these dates are important to me. November 4th, 2003. She goes missing February 9th, 2004. When she's confronted by police officers about this credit card theft, she reluctantly admits it. She shows them where she had written down the credit card numbers on a note card. She would not give a written statement. She wouldn't say how she got those numbers other than to say she found them on a receipt. But from what I read, the case did not... I mean, she admitted guilt to the police officers, but the case had not made its way through the court system yet. Now, it's not a felony. It's probably only a summary offense because it's under, well, in Pennsylvania, under $250, I think, or whatever it was, is a summary offense. You just basically get a ticket. But it still hadn't made it through there. From what I saw a note that said continued until March 30th of 2004. That's important to me. Remember what she did at West Point, where she ran away from her problems, maybe, if she wasn't kicked out. So this is still being continued. It hasn't worked its way through the court system yet. And she again is leaving. Now, when police looked and did a search of her dorm apartments, and this is what is the most perplexing to me, her items were boxed up. Her knickknacks and art and posters and stuff were taken off of the wall. There was a note printed out, an email of some sort to the boyfriend laying on top of those boxes. The contents of that note, I don't know about, other than it was deemed that there was problems in the relationship. So here you have a girl who is, I believe, not what is seen on the surface. You have somebody that wrecked her dad's car, and I believe it was probably due to alcohol. You have a girl who is in the midst of an ongoing legal issue, no matter how big or small it is. This is at least the second time this has happened. A character type of issue. And then she wrecks the car. That's compounding the problems. And that's the backstory, okay? So what happened to her? Well, I'm not a psychic. I will say that the prevalent thought, from what I've researched, seems to be that people think that she was picked up by a serial killer of some sort. Listen, guys, it doesn't... Does that happen? Sure. That's possible. But it's not probable. When you take into account everything else that was going in this girl's life, is it possible that she was at the wrong place at the wrong time? Yes. Yes, it is. Is that probable? I don't believe so, based off the evidence and the victimology that I just saw. I believe that she wanted to get away. She was running away from her problems. Now, was she running away forever? I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because the little amount that she had packed. All those boxes being packed up at the dorm could indicate she was planning on running from that problem. Okay? Just like at West Point. She was going to pack up and go. Maybe it was an embarrassment. Maybe nobody knew about this. Probably, I guarantee nobody knew about West Point either. She was putting up a fake front. It's like I talk about all the time. You know how many times, I've done search warrants at people's houses when I was a detective and a patrol officer, both. You never would expect the things that you find. You're out there talking to them as a neighbor, everything. You do a search warrant in someone's house, and the stuff that you find, you're like, oh my, never would have thought it. So, to me, she isn't what she seems. Yes, her family and friends all think that she's great, and I'm not saying that she wasn't. But we all have skeletons. We all have things that people don't know about us. She didn't tell anybody where she was going. Was there any bad intent? I don't think so. I think she wanted to get away. And maybe think about things for a little bit. Was she planning on committing suicide like some people have thought? No, not at that point. I don't believe so. Because if you planned on it, now one person, the boyfriend's mother, said, well, she didn't write a note. Listen, more often than not, you don't know how many suicides that I've looked at, there was no note, and it's a clear-cut suicide, okay? People don't always leave notes. That's a fallacy. It really is. But I don't believe that she had left that apartment to go to Burlington to commit suicide. If an indicator of that would be buying a lot of booze. So she did do that. I had a suicide once where the guy stopped and he bought 2 bottles of vodka, bought a bunch of Red Man Chew, And I'm looking in his truck, and I'm looking at the receipt, and I'm like, why would he buy all of that, knowing that the liquor's sure to work up the courage to do it, but why all the red man chew? You know, when you know you're going to go kill yourself. And it was no doubt that he had hung himself, but he did. This is what he did. It doesn't have to have an explanation to it. So I always get the question, how do you become a cold case detective? Ken Mains, how did you become a cold case detective? Well, I had that in mind a long time ago, over 10 years ago. And I got the answer right here. Mastering Cold Case Investigations, a guidebook for detectives. I wrote this 550-page behemoth for that purpose. Because when I was in high school, when I was in college, and then when I became a detective, I wanted to know more about cold cases, why they go cold, why are they unsolved? Is it evidence? Is it lack of determination? Is it perseverance? Is it politics? All the above. Well, I set the answer to all those questions in my new book. It's been 10 years of research, writing, jotting down things. I knew that I was going to write this book eventually. And it finally has come to a head where I'm able to actually get it done, get it published by Unsolved No More Publishing, and get it out to you. So who's this book for? It's for detectives. It's for amateur detectives. It's for college students, academia, forensics. The topics I cover in this book, from what is a cold case, victimology, research, crime scene location, criminal profiling, conflict, greed, sex and revenge, possibilities versus probabilities. That is huge in this book. I go through that a lot because that's the basis and foundation of my methodology. Evidence, sketches. Of course, you have affirmations. Why should you listen? Social media, the rule of psychology, equivocal deaths, modus operandi, signature. Legal and ethical considerations in cold cases, integrity, involving as a cold case detective, serial killers, missing persons, domestic violence, exposing myths, premeditation versus spontaneous, confidential informants, wrongly convicted, clandestine graves, you name it. I cover it in here. 550-page hardcover textbook. And along with all those topics, I also wanted to do case studies, especially case studies on confessions. Why? Because you can learn so much from confessions. At the end of the book, I go in great detail about killers in general who have confessed, why they did it, and what we can learn. That's always the most important thing, what we can learn from them and move forward and apply what we learned on that case to a future case. So I have all that. I tried to incorporate as much as I could, and there's a lot in there about real life cases that I have worked on and I have either solved or learned something from. And I'll tie that to a specific chapter, along with tips, certain things that I think you should look for in certain areas. It's a great book to learn from. But it's not just for active law enforcement members, private investigators, defense attorneys. Everybody can learn from this book. And that is what is motivated me to write this, is I want people to learn. I am tired of seeing wrongfully convicted people. I'm tired of the politics of district attorneys' offices and state police and local jurisdictions who either don't have the resources to do it or they just pass it off because they don't know how, they don't want to, they don't have the desire, the determination. And all that does is affect the victims and the victims' families. And I see it time and time again. You will see endorsements and affirmations from victims' family members in here who I've worked with in the past because they are the most important people. To pass off what I have learned to you So you can be a great investigator. You can be a great detective. And you can solve cases just like I do. Get your copy now. I'll sign it. I'll get it out to you and start learning. That way we can start solving cool cases together. But some of the other characteristics that are not an indication of suicide to me is when she left the car, she locked it. Now, why do that? Is it out of habit? Possibly. Very possibly. Now, I will throw in the thought of suicide after the accident, after the second accident. Now, she was upset and kind of depressed after the first accident, okay? Maybe so much so that she packed up her stuff and said, I'm out of here, I'm going to leave, but for right now, hey, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to withdraw some money, and I'm going to go get a cabin up in Burlington, Vermont, where my family had gone in the past. And then on the way up there, she has a second accident and she's drunk. Now she has a court case already pending. She has one accident. Now she just has two. Okay. Now the thought of suicide. I can entertain that now. But how? Oh, you'll say, well, anybody can hang themselves. Sure. Yes. Very possible. I can entertain that thought now. Especially with her being intoxicated. But that would mean that she would have to more than likely go into the woods and hang herself. I want to know how much money was found in that car, if any. If none, and if she spent, I don't know, $40 for the booze, that leaves her $240, $40 for gas, so now she has $200. She has $200 in her pocket when she leaves there. It's 7-something at night. Are there any stores in the area? I'm sure that was checked out where she could buy an implement to hang herself. There was 2.5 feet of snow from what I saw. There was no indication of footprints in that snow. Now that is troublesome to me. That indicates that she was walking along the road and nobody saw her? Is it possible that she was picked up by somebody with nefarious intent? Yes. But do I believe that? No. I leave that as a possibility, but not a probability. So what happened? I mean, what do you think? Everybody has their own opinions, but the evidence in the victimology tells me that she was certainly upset when she left, but not enough to kill herself. The second accident occurred. She begged not to call police because she was intoxicated. She was running away again. Running away from the problems. These are the two things that I would not be surprised about. I would not be surprised if she was found alive somewhere. Number two, I would not be surprised if her body was found in those woods somewhere within 5 miles of where that car wrecked. It would depend on her level of intoxication. I'd want to know that wine bottle, how much was drinking out of that. We don't know if the Kahlua and the Baileys and the vodka, if they weren't there, we don't know how much was drinking. But if she had drinking a lot of alcohol and went into those woods, and I left out a part where the boyfriend received a voicemail on his phone. What was? And I don't even know the time frame because I only heard it briefly, only once by him. But it was that next morning, and he could hear a girl whimper. It's the same adjective that the father had used, and breathing like she was crying, and no message was left, and they hung up. And it was from a prepaid card, which she was known to use, and the boyfriend believed it was her. Now, if she was in trouble, why wouldn't she leave a message? If she was being held against her will, why wouldn't she say, hey, help me, at least? If she was lost in the woods, why wouldn't she leave a message? You know, the only person that knows the answer to that is Maura. Maybe the phone died. Maybe the minutes ran out before she could leave a message. It's all speculation. But when a person dies, it's either by natural causes, homicide, suicide, or accident. And in this case, all four are into play because we don't have a body. And that's if somebody dies. That's not taking into account that somebody is kidnapped and held against their will, or if they decided to get away. If you remember the case of Michelle Whitaker, and if you are unfamiliar with that, go back through my videos and look. Everyone was certain she succumbed to foul play because she was dropped off at a truck stop, and what, puts fright into young hitchhiking women more than being at a truck stop. Her family said she would never leave her dog, she would never leave her family. We just know that something bad happened to her. She's dead. Probably a trucker. And lo and behold, 10 years later, she's alive and living in a different state, started a whole new life, and didn't want anything to do with her family. So it happens. Not everything is foul play. I do not believe that an opportunistic serial killer or murderer happened upon her at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, and decided to kidnap her and kill her. That's not what the victimology tells me. It tells me of a young, confused person who is having an avalanche of problems, no matter how small we think those problems are. Everybody handles everything differently. She thinks that the whole world is coming in on her, having boyfriend problems, disappointing dad, wrecking his car. Now I wreck my car, and it's inoperable, and I can't move it. I've been drinking. I have this pending legal case back there. It's all crashing in on me. I can't take it. And what gets more people confused and emotional other than being intoxicated? That amplifies. Every bad choice I've ever made in my life, I was under the influence of alcohol. I could see her wandering down the road for a little ways, going into the woods. And think about this. And hunters will tell you this. And I used to be a hunter, so I know. When you are going into the woods, you're going to find the least obstructed way to go into those woods. Meaning, you'll walk along a road that has piles of snowbank on it, so you don't have to go into that snowbank until you find an opening. And then you go into it. Now, would she do this on purpose? I don't know. I would want to know whether... See, she did not know whether the cops were being called or not, right? If someone said, I'm calling the cops, then I can see her going into those woods to avoid apprehension. But she didn't know that the cops were being called. She may have thought it. I don't know what the exact words that the bus driver gave. After she said, no, don't call them. I already called AAA. And he went home and called them himself. But there was a witness in a house up further who saw, the wreck. And they called police. She certainly did not want to be around that car. She didn't want people to know that she was there drinking and had a wreck. So where would she have gone? She absolutely could have hitchhiked. But if she did, I think people would have saw her. Is it possible that she went into the woods and tried to wait it out? Wait to see when the police came, how long they were there? Possible. But she already knows that car is inoperable. She can't drive it. And the police are going to tow it anyhow. So she would have to go to the police station to get it out. So let's assume that she does that. Let's say she's waiting around. Police exit the scene around 9 o'clock at night. So she's been in the woods for 2.5 hours. Maybe watching all this take place. Wondering what she's going to do. She doesn't want to involve anybody. So she's not going to call anybody. And maybe she's planning on, trying to dig that car out or whatever it is, but the police take it. Now she's stuck without a vehicle. Now what do? Well, she has a cell phone, so wouldn't that be the time to call for help? But who's she going to call? Is she going to call her dad and say, I just wrecked another car? I was drinking? Come get me? Depends on their relationship. If you listen to his interviews, him saying, I miss my buddy and all this, you would think that would be an option. But she didn't do that, right? Would lead me to believe more that she just left. But, boy, I don't know, because she doesn't seem like she's the most criminal savvy person. By that I mean, she took her credit cards with her. She only had about $200 left, I'm guessing. That's not going to get you too far. Unless, how would she survive on just that? The police, I'm sure, or the family, checked those credit cards and they probably never used again. So, I mean, it's possible. It's certainly possible. But I would put that down there too. I would take out a homicide. I would probably take out her running away. And I would be more inclined to believe that she got turned around in those woods. And her phone died. It's cold. And she succumbed to the elements. Not like that would be the first time that's happened. That's happened countless times to people. If she was intoxicated, that gives you a sense of warmth, and maybe, if she wasn't a smoker, she probably didn't have any fire starter with her, matches or anything. You drink more alcohol to keep you warm, when in actuality that is worse for you, because it gives you a false sense of warmth. I don't know what type of coat she had. I imagine it was a winter coat of some sort. But still, she was a hiker. She was athletic. That makes the most sense to me. It really does, based off of everything that I saw. I would still leave open the possibility of an opportunistic killer, but there's no evidence of that. There's just no evidence of that. There's more evidence of her running away based on what she did in her past than there is of her being a victim of homicide. I would think more than likely she succumbed to the elements out there when she was trying to wait it out. You know, I can envision certainly her walking up the road a ways, finding a trail that didn't have a lot of snow or whatnot, going in there far enough away so she could still have eyes on her car and the police activity around it. Then they start searching for her. Right down in there, you know, the police are looking for her. The big search didn't take place for a couple of days after when they brought the bloodhounds in and stuff, and the bloodhounds lost her scent about 50 feet in the middle of the road, and people want to say, well, that means that she got in a car. No, that doesn't. That's not what it means. So I could see her watching the vehicle from in the wooded area. You know, you're far enough away where you can see the lights, and all of a sudden now the police are out with flashlights, and now they're looking for you. In your intoxicated state, you still don't want to be caught. You take off a little bit further in the woods, a little bit further. It doesn't take long to get turned around. Now, I know that those woods have been searched extensively. But I know of other places and other cases where woods have been searched extensively and they missed it. So, I could see that to me is more of the probable than the possible. I'm going to go down through my notes here, read off some things that I've written down just so I didn't miss anything. Remember, when you write things down, it's because they're important to you. You see something, you want to write them down. She wanted to get away because the second accident, she was in deep depression. Her items were packed at the dorm. I have a question mark there. And her artwork and stuff was taken down off the walls. That is indicative of me of somebody that's getting ready to leave college. And it's the exact same thing that she did at West Point when she got caught stealing there. So I won't label her a thief, but I will label her as she was somewhat troubled for what that's worth. Calls rental place, she withdrew her money. She got her liquor. She was definitely drinking on the way, and I wrote that. She walked in the woods, question mark. I have suicide, natural causes, runaway. What were all the items in the car that she left? I don't know the answer to that. I know some of it, the stuff that she had left there. No note, question mark, and I wrote that because of what the boyfriend's mom had said. Her car was locked, 2.5 feet of snow, which to me, again, would show footprints in the snow if she went in the snow in that direction. But like I said, as a hunter, I know you travel the path of least resistance. So you're going to walk up that road until you find a trail of some sort that dips into those woods. The red wine on the driver's side of the door ceiling, I think that's an indication that she was actually imbibing in the alcohol when she wrecked. I have written down here the first accident when she wrecked her dad's car at 0333, not drunk, question mark. And the police gave her a ride to a motel, question mark. That's just odd to me because you don't do that nowadays. I think she would have gotten a breathalyzer test nowadays, at least, to see her level of intoxication. Her past credit card theft and it being continued. So that was still pending while this accident and disappearance happened. The last thing I've written down here is no suicide. How would she with what? And I think I've covered that. And again, I don't think it was planned suicide. She wasn't leaving her dorms to go to Vermont to kill herself. Because on the way, she picked up these accident report paperwork and triplicates that her dad needed for the insurance company. You wouldn't do that if you were getting ready to commit suicide. Now, after she wrecked the car, then okay. Then suicide may have crossed her mind. And I believe that. But how? She could hang herself with her own piece of clothing. Sure. There's ways to do it. But I don't find that that's probable. I think that she got turned around in those woods. But I can't rule out the other things either. So, to me, that's the most probable. Or she ran away. Excuse me. She certainly has a history of that, of running away from her problems. She just doesn't look like she has the financial means. But when I think of Michelle Whitaker, she had no means. And when they interviewed Michelle Whitaker later, she said, I was in a restaurant, I had no money, but I was so hungry, and I ordered the food anyway, knowing that there was no way I could pay it. And it made me feel horrible. Luckily, the guy behind me, he paid for my food. And she disappeared. Started a whole new life over. This could be the exact same thing. She doesn't have to have the means in order to do it. All she needed is some helping hands. So if I had to rank them, I would say she succumbed to the elements after getting turned away around in those woods somewhere after hiding from the police because she was intoxicated. Number 2, I would say that she ran away. To start a new life, she was embarrassed. She had a history of doing that. I think that is number 2. Now, her friends and family would certainly disagree with that, but I've seen it happen. But that would be number 2 based off of the evidence that I see. 3 and 4 would be a tie. No, 3 would be a suicide. And family and friends would disagree with that as well. But based off of everything that was happening, going on in her life right then, I think it is a possibility. And 4, the last, is, to me, her getting picked up by somebody to kill her. That's the least probable, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm looking at this as unbiased set of eyes that haven't gone down any of the rabbit holes, looking at the evidence. And that's what I see. Agree or disagree. That's what I see. So, that was an elite member's request. Remember, if you want to be an elite member and request case, go to my page on YouTube and then click on the join, the membership tab, and join, and join the growing numbers there. And I think that's about all I have to say on this case. Very intriguing. I will have to go and look for updates. I did just see an update. I looked at the date and it was November. So this month there was an update. They had found remains somewhere, but it was confirmed that it wasn't hers. So she's still out there, hopefully alive somewhere. That would be my hope. Feel bad for her family and friends, and just like I do all missing person cases. But that's my assessment on this case. Maura Murray disappeared February 9th, 2004. Hope she's found. And I hope she's found alive. So, until next time, Mains out.